We're going to translate words into mathematics today. The reason for this is if you can get this in your head, how this works, it helps with the word problems. And we'll work on a lot of word problems. But right now, today, and probably the rest of the week, we'll just talk about how to translate little phrases. We'll do word problems later. Okay, now we are going to use this sheet. And if any of you need this sheet, be sure and just let me know. If you do not have this sheet in front of you, get out some notebook paper or notes or something so you can write down, because I'm going to add a lot of things to this page. Okay, now the first thing I'd like for you to do on this page is go through the little symbols and draw a division line here after the pluses and after the minuses and after the times. Do you see them? Just draw a line clear across, because I'm going to add some things in each section. Okay, so draw a line underneath the pluses, underneath the minuses, underneath the times, underneath the divide, okay, the equals, and the inequalities. The parentheses is kind of by itself. Now this is a really good sheet. Actually, Rachel found this for me a while ago, and it's very good, but it's not complete. And even the words that I give you today won't complete this list, but it'll give you a really good idea on how to use this. Okay. So let's look at add. Now, the reason that I'm teaching you how to translate words into mathematics is the same reason that if I was going to learn Spanish, that I would have to be taught how to say the word desk in Spanish and water in Spanish before I could speak Spanish. So in order to do word problems, you're going to need to know what the words mean. And you can change words into mathematical expressions. Makes it easier to solve. So let's look at the first section. What we're doing is drawing a line under the pluses, under the minuses, like this. Just separating, because you're going to add these things in, okay? Oh dear, you're doing it. Are you? No. I was doing it. Yeah, let me get you another one, because I printed extras of these. Okay. Okay. Because the reason I'm giving you another one is because you'll need to write out here where you have all these lines. You'll need to be like, you'll need to write stuff out to the side. That's why I'm just having you do the sections. Okay. I just didn't explain myself very well, did I? All right, for addition, the vocabulary words here are great. They are some, add, in addition, more than. I want you to put a little star or circle more than. I'm going to talk about that and less than in a little bit. Okay, so highlight, circle, put a star by more than. And in the next section, there is a phrase less than. Okay, so I will come back to those. Okay, so all of these increased, greater, in excess. I don't see in excess a lot. The main ones here, if you want to underline or whatever you want to, the main ones you're going to see are some and more than, maybe increased. Okay? Now, some extra words that mean addition would be combine. This is in addition to your list. Or you're also going to see the word total. Total means you're going to add. Okay. I think we're just going to go through this list, and I'm just going to give you what to write down for a while, and then I'll show you how we're going to use them. Okay. So now let's look at the subtraction section. Decreased by, less than, of course, the word subtract. Difference is one you're going to see a lot. Difference is a big deal. Diminished, reduced, those should be two separate words. I don't know why they're on the same line. Okay? Rachel, real quick, will you grab those for Naomi? She's coming in. Okay, so diminished, reduce, those are two separate ones, and remainder are the ones that are on the list. And probably difference is a biggie. Now, some extras that mean subtraction is reduced by. Reduced by means subtracted. Lowered, these are words that I've picked up out of your worksheets. So you definitely need to have these written down so that you can refer back to your list when you're doing the worksheets. Okay.
What does the bottom one say?
Oh, here you go. Reduced by and lowered by. Okay. And thank you for getting those sheets. Naomi, we'll give you the first two sections here in a little bit. You can get them for one of the other girls too, or Simon. Simon, I'm sorry, it's been girls for so long.
Okay.
All right, now I want to stop for just a minute and address the more than and the less than that you either highlighted or put the stars on. Okay, these are very important because most of the things that you do when you're translating words into mathematics is you do it in order of the words the way they come in the problem. You'll find out that that's pretty easy. However, more than and less than actually change the direction. More than and less than phrases change the direction of the way you write things in the problem. These are called switch phrases. These are the only ones. These are called a switch phrase. And this is an example of how they work. If you have an expression that says X less than 5, you would think, since less than means subtract, less than means subtract, you would think it would be X minus 5. But since less than is a switch phrase, that means it switches what's in front and what's behind, and it switches places. very, very important with less than. So that phrase should be this. Do y'all see? More than and less than are a switch phrase. So be aware of that when you hit it, okay? More than and less than are switch phrases. Okay, let's go to the multiplication. Let me see, I'm making sure I stay on task here. Okay, we go to the multiplication section. And some of these I hardly ever see at all, like times as much.
I have seen that one.
You have? Well, I think we need to be aware of all of them. I like this exhaustive list. I like it, but I want to add more. Percent of, okay? And then product, okay? If you're highlighting or putting stars, this is one of the most often used to be multiplication. Product means the answer to a multiplication problem. If you see the word product, it says, oh, I'm going to have to find the answer to a multiplication problem. I'm going to multiply. Product means that. Interest on, I don't see that very much. Now, the things I want you to add to multiply, the multiply section. Besides the word product, the most often used for multiply is the word of. You'll see how that's used, but this is very, very, very often. Okay, of. And if you see the factor, that means one thing that's going to be multiplied to something else. If it's a factor, it's going to be multiplied by something else to get an answer. A factor is part of a multiplication problem. Okay, factor and of. Of is a biggie. Okay, let's go to the division section. The list has per, like 30 miles per gallon. Per, P-E-R, means to divide, okay? You will see that. Of course, the word divide. Now, quotient is another one of those that is very, very well used. Quotient means the answer to a division problem. Quotient means the answer to a division problem. We're going to address those four in a minute. Sum, difference, product, and quotient. We'll address those in a little while again. There are two more that are used, three more that aren't on this list. Out of. Now, a minute ago, we said of means multiply, but out of means divide. Okay, out of. 3 out of the 5 people in the class wear glasses. Okay, 3 out of 5 means 3 divided by 5. We'll be using those. Also, the word ratio. When we see ratio, that's on your worksheets. Ratio means we're going to divide two things. The ratio of, and it will say, it's kind of like out of, ratio, and then it'll tell you what it's going to divide after that phrase, okay? And another phrase, separated. Separated into. I saw that on the worksheet. Separated into means I'm going to divide it into pieces. I'm going to separate it into pieces. Okay, so divide, I want you to add these, please. Now, am I going too fast for y'all? Is everybody okay? Okay, now let's address the parentheses, and I'll explain how these parentheses are used. They're powerful whenever you're trying to work out a word problem. Parentheses. You will use parentheses most often when the words say sum, difference, I'm gonna sneeze. Product or quotient. Of course, maybe ratio, but not as often. Okay, in the reading, and we'll do some examples of this, you know, and so it will clear it up a little bit. But during the reading, I want you to understand that it will say something about the sum of, and immediately when you see the word sum, you're going to write a parentheses, because right after this, it will tell you, this is add, I'm sorry, sum means add, difference means subtract, product means multiply, quotient means divide, okay? So immediately after the word sum, it will tell you the two things that we're going to add. Okay, so the minute that you see the word sum in a word problem, then you put a set of parentheses and put a plus. You know this for sure. And then read the words right after sum, and it will tell you what to put here and what to put here. Okay, this is probably the hardest thing for people to get used to in a word problem. I mean, before I taught about parentheses, they had a horrible time. But if you see this word, put parentheses and a plus. Then read on, and it will tell you the two things to put in the blanks. Y'all see? That will be the same process that you will do if you see the difference. Automatically, put two parentheses and a minus. Put two parentheses and a times. For quotient, put two parentheses and a divide, or quotient, remember a fraction, this means divide also, right? So you can write this and put the next two things here and here. Okay, the fraction means divide. So you might see that on the answer sheets. Okay, divide or divide, either way is fine. And when you see the ratio, more than likely they're wanting you to write it this way. A ratio is written division this way as a fraction. Everybody good? Okay. It will be a lot clearer when we do some examples. This is super important. You will run into this all the time. Okay. Very popular. Okay, let's go to the equals. Man, there are so many words, so many more than I thought of. But for equal, of course, the word equal, equivalent, is, was, will be, results. I'm reading those off the sheet. In addition to that, I saw the word gives. This and this and this gives, that means equal. Okay? And let's just leave for right now the inequality signs at the bottom. They're pretty much complete on that, and we'll deal with inequalities later. Okay, so have this available. Now, there are some other words that I saw as I went through your worksheets that I thought might be confusing to you. 1/4. If it says 1/4, that doesn't mean 25 cents. It means 1/4. So when you see 1/4 of something, it's 1/4. And this is, actually, I do not remember this word from college or anything, but it's used on your worksheet. It is a perfectly good word. Thrice. Thrice means 3 times. And just to make sure you know, twice means 2 times. Okay? Twice and thrice. I don't think there's a 4-ites. I don't know. There's not another one. Okay, let's go to the other page. Here are some examples that you can refer back to. They tell you 10 more than X. Look at that very first one. 10 more than X. I'm on the back side of the vocabulary. The back side of the vocabulary. And the very first one, 10 more than, remember that more than is a switch phrase, and that's why they list the X first, and then the 10. It's on the back side.
Oh, okay.
See, more than is a switch phrase, so they don't put the 10 first. They put the X first. See, more than means plus, but more than is a switch phrase. So you switch these two things. Y'all see? Okay. There are some more phrases that aren't listed here. Let's write those in wherever you want to write them. There's a phrase called the square of X. And that simply means you're going to write X with an exponent that means squared. Square of X is X squared. Okay? The same is true of the cube of X, or any letter for that matter, will be X cubed. The little 3 means cubed. The cube of X. You'll see in your phrases. Or you might see M raised to the power of 5. Raised to the power of says we're going to have an exponent. We'll talk a lot more about exponents later. But what this looks like is M, some letter M, raised to the power. That means it's an exponent of 5. So something raised to the power of says it's going to be an exponent, and that tells you what the exponent's going to be. Y'all see? Raised to the power of. Haha. Okay, we're done with my write-ins. Now I want to explain some things. Let me see. Okay, consecutive. Do you know what consecutive means? You will see problems that tell you about consecutive numbers. Consecutive means 1 right after another. So 2 and 3 are consecutive numbers. They're consecutive because they come one right after the other. If it says, give me 4 consecutive numbers, it'll be 2, 3, 4, and 5 because they're consecutive, one right after the other. Do y'all see? Consecutive. Now, the one that's more confusing, which we'll hit later, is consecutive even numbers. So if I started with 12, what would be my next consecutive even number?
14.
Right, it can't be 13, can it? Because I asked for even. So it would be 12, 14, 16, and so on. Okay, consecutive even numbers. The same is true for consecutive odd numbers. Okay, if it starts at 5, the next one would be 7 and 9. Do y'all see? If it just says consecutive numbers, it's these. They might use consecutive integers. You'll have to go back to our notes. Integers, when we were talking about types of numbers, they're going to use this word. Integers is the whole numbers, no decimals, no fractions, but it can include negatives. Integers will be used a lot. Integers are the whole numbers plus the negatives. No decimals, no fractions.
Numbers are what?
No, you look sleepy.
Numbers are what?
They're whole numbers, including the negatives. No decimals, no fractions. Integers. And most everything you're going to deal with right now is going to, the numbers will be integers. Okay, we've written everything. Let me look here. Oh, the other one that looks like a switch phrase, I want to call your attention to that. Now, if I had, let me think of an example. If I had a handful of jelly beans, okay? I don't know how many's here, so I'll just call it X, okay? If I had X jelly beans and I added 5 to it, would I put the X first or the 5? Which one did I start with?
Oh, the jelly beans.
I started with this many jelly beans. How many's here?
X.
We don't know, it's X, right? So if I have a phrase that says 5 added to some number, okay, some number, 5 added to X, what did I have to start with?
The X.
I had the X, and then I added 5 to it. A lot of students get this mixed up, okay? There is an example here. Closer to the bottom, I guess. How about the one that starts 10? Okay, it's kind of right here on the phrases. It says 10 subtracted from something. So I have to know what the something is that I started out with before I can subtract something. Okay, so it says 10 subtracted from 10 times a number. This is your first example already. And I am going to stop there. There's more to this, but let's do this much. When it says a number, that means we're really not sure what it is. It's just something, like our jelly beans. It's just something. So we say X. We're just going to call it X. Okay. When it says a number, we're going to call it X. Now, think of this in your head. Don't let it worry you. 10 subtracted from. So I'm going to subtract 10 from something, but I have to start with that something. Do y'all understand? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start with this. So times means multiply, of course. So I'm going to have 10 times X. Now, here's another understood in math. There's a lot of understoods in math. If you cram two things together without anything in between, it's an automatic multiply. But they don't put it there. So this right here says 10 times X. 10 times a number X. Okay? So we have what we started with. 10 times the number X. And then it says subtract 10 from that. Do you see how the phrase works? Now the equals and stuff on there, we're going to deal with tomorrow and the next day. We're not going to shove a bunch of stuff at you today. You're going to go with short phrases today. Okay? So let's put that aside, but put it where you can see it. Put your vocabulary where you can see it. Okay, and let's look at the very first one on the first worksheet. It's the one that's by itself, not the one that's stapled to everything else. It says, we're going to learn to just write short phrases, and then we'll start to put those phrases together. You'll be fine. Okay, so it says 2/9. How am I going to write 2/9?
Fraction.
Fraction, a fraction, 2/9. What does of mean?
Multiply.
Multiply and X. That's how you write these words in math. Not too bad, right?
But it's H. It says H.
Okay, it says H. Oh, we're already starting, right? Okay. It can be any letter, you guys. Okay. All right. Could I also, from the understood rule, could I also write this as 2/9 H?
Yes.
Because when they're crammed together, that means the same thing. Y'all see, and you're going to see this more often than this. Okay, this is the one that's used the most. So are we okay? What about the second one?
G reduce. G minus 1.
Yes. And for those on remote, it says G reduced by 1. This isn't a switch phrase, so we're just going to do it in the way it is. It says to write G. This phrase means minus 1. And that's how you're going to write this phrase. We're going to do the third one here, and then I'm going to go to another page. The third one, because I want you to see the parentheses. It says, all right, this one's a little bit longer, but we're not scared, are we? No, we're not scared. I see some people disagreeing with
A
me.
little bit.
Okay, quotient. First of all, what does the word quotient mean? Divide. And then it also means, yes, that immediately we're going to write parentheses. Okay? If we see the word quotient, we're going to do this. And we're going to put divide right here. That's all of this means quotient. Now, after that, it says what goes here and what goes here. And usually, almost always, those two things are separated in the sentence with the word and. Okay? So the square of R is going to go in the first blank. 6 is going to go in the last blank. Y'all see? Because the two things that go in the parentheses are separated by the word and. Y'all see? Now we have to know how to write the square of R. How am I going to write that? R squared. Ta-da! This is it. Now, in your answer sheet, remember the division can be written this way or like a fraction. So on your answer sheet, it may say R squared over 6. This means the same thing. So I would suggest that if you're working with the quotient in a problem, write it this way first. And then you can write it this way. It's easier to do it that way than it is to try to do it this way first. Y'all see? But you'll work it out for yourselves as long as you know what the words mean and what the process is. Let's look at the next page. It's the first page of the stapled stuff. Okay, let's go down to number 8. Number 8. I haven't heard much from Isabel, Josh, Sherry. Am I going too fast? Are you guys with me?
I'm with you.
Isabel's okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Sherry?
Yes, ma'am.
Josh? Josh is having a lot of trouble with his internet. Okay. I'll get back. Okay, I heard you. 1/4 added to n. Now, before y'all start writing stuff down, then look at it a minute. You should do this all the time. Just read it once and breathe, okay? Just breathe. It says 1/4 added to something that already happened, right? What already happened? N already happened, and we're going to add this to it. So we have N. It says added, so we know that should have been added, ED. And what am I going to add to it? 1/4. The 1/4. And this is the phrase that we're going to be writing. Y'all see? Okay. The added to, subtracted from, you need to be careful of those because something has to happen first before you can take something away or add it. You can think of it that way if you'd like. Added to and subtracted from. Let's go to that second stapled page. This one, when I first looked at it, I thought maybe there's a typo here, but it says 5. You're not going to see this very often, but I want you to see it because it's on your worksheet. 5 divides E. Okay. At first I thought they mistyped that and it's supposed to say 5 divided by E, but it's not. What they're telling you is that 5 divides this thing up. So this is E, maybe jelly beans, we don't know. This is E, and 5 divides that. So it means I'm going to divide this stuff into 5 pieces. Okay, so it's kind of like I have the jelly beans, And then 5 comes in and divides it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I have the jelly beans first, and 5 just came in and divided them up. I wouldn't stress over this, but I wanted you to see the example because it is on your worksheets. Do you understand how this, okay, it's not a typo. 5 divides this. I think you're going to see it 1 or 2 more times. Okay, and on that same page, let's look at number 9. Number 9. Hopefully, these examples will give you an idea of what we're going to do. So number 9 says R less than 1. Okay. Good. I was going to say, what do you see very first? You see a switch phrase. Sometimes you'll see it look like this. It's a switch phrase. That means these 2 positions are going to switch places, right? Less than is a switch phrase. Less than means minus. So we know that for sure. And then we're just going to switch places. 1/8 minus R. Are we good? I think that should be enough examples. Let me whip over here and see if there's anything. Let's go over, if you numbered your pages, it would be, the stapled thing is 3, 4, 5, go to page 6. The stapled batch is page 3, 4, 5, and 6, go to page 6. And let's do number 9 there. Ratio of M and 7 . So what are we going to do here? Oh, did y'all not find it? It's this. Okay, so just if you can't find it on your pages, then write it down real quick, okay? It's on like the 4th page, 3, 4, 5, 6, number 9. Okay, ratio. Ratio, okay? Ratio means divide, but this time, if it says ratio, we're going to write the divide like this, okay? I only put the divide here to remind you that this line means divide. You don't have to always write it there. This is just a reminder for y'all. Okay, the ratio of. Now it's going to tell you what goes on top. It's going to tell you what goes on bottom because they're separated by the word and. Okay, so what goes on top? M.
And 7 on bottom.
7 added to 2.
9.
Well,
Plus 2. 3
Oh.
plus 2.
this is one of those that
Where it's together.
really kind of bothers me because it can be written 2 different ways. Ugh.
7 plus 2.
Okay. Here's the first way. It's like in English, you know, if you don't use the comma in the right spot, then it means something completely different, you know. Some of these don't get psyched out, okay? One way it could be written is the ratio of M and 7, and then added because we had the ratio first and then we added.
I was gonna say, would it be like M and then plus, and then it'd be 2/7? Wouldn't
No,
it be
no,
like
no.
that?
Not that at all. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Not at all. Okay. Let's look at this again. I don't want y'all to space out because, well, I'm not going to understand that one. Okay. Listen carefully to me. The ratio of M and 7, so we wrote that. And that's added to the 2. Okay, so the 2, didn't it have to happen first before I could add something to it? It's added to the 2, that's why I put the 2 in front. And this is probably, is that what the answer is on the back?
No, it's
No.
M over 7 plus 2.
It's M squared.
Well, I'm sorry, this one's right. I apologize. Change it on the answer sheet because if it's added to something, that something has to happen first. I know that for a fact. I know it so well that you can change it on your answer sheet. Now, we know that's the answer. Just for those of you that care, this is how I interpreted it at the first. I interpreted it this way. The ratio of M and 7 added to 2. That's,
That's what I was
see, that's what I thought. But that didn't make sense when someone back there said, well, 9. Anyhow, some of these can be interpreted the other way, but the first one is the correct one after you correct it on your answer sheet. Okay, so the answer to this should have been M over 7, and the 2 had to start first. 2 plus M over 7. Okay. Any questions on these?
Nope.
What about you guys? I heard Josh, I think. Any questions so far?
I'm okay.
Okay,
No,
Isabel?
ma'am. No.
And you got the email, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sherry?
Yes, ma'am, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. And Josh, I'm not seeing your picture. Nope. He got thrown out. Okay. All right. I think the best thing now is for y'all to try these. I only want you to go, I don't want you to do all of them. Go to, I think it was 7 is all the pages I want you to do. So the vocabulary page is page 1. The one that's not stapled is page 2. And then you start with page 3 here, okay, in the stapled stuff. And I only want you to go through, let's just go through page 7 or 8, okay? You can try 8 if you want to, but definitely go through 7 for today. 8 starts longer stuff that we need to kind of work at. Are y'all good? Okay, and I would highly suggest that if you want to work together, talk these things out if you need to, okay? You need to understand the vocabulary. It is so important because one of the things that math students hate the worst is word problems. I'm giving you the key to the word problems. This is how you work them out. So any questions in the classroom? I don't have any remotely. They said they don't have any questions. We're ready to work? Ready for break? Okay, we will see you all tomorrow. Love you
Okay.
both.